All right, thank you guys for showing up today. I'm Mr. Hernandez, and just for context, this is my senior practicum of IT class. So I have 8 students in here. We've done a little bit of everything in programming, not going crazy into depth of what you're going to see at college level of just like stacks and queues. We might touch on some of those concepts, but just kind of basic programming concepts reinforced in different languages and stuff. So yeah, we're really excited for everything that you have to share, and I'll let you take it away from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us, Mr. Hernandez. And hey, students, it's great to meet all of you. Excited to be here and sharing with y'all. Thanks for coming today and letting us share a little bit about the engineering journey here. So we are at PlayVS, just high level, kind of giving you a little bit of context of who PlayVS is, and then we'll get into myself and Olivia. So PlayVS is a esports platform where kids all over the country are playing esports. We are the platform by which the leagues are organized, and kids and coaches enroll in the seasons, and coaches can manage their teams, and players can have all sorts of stats, and fans can be there to spectate, and you can win state championships in esports and video games, which for me, I thought that was so cool. Like 12-year-old version of myself is so pumped about what I'm doing right now, like helping kids play video games and in school and like win state championships. That's just kind of an awesome thing to be a part of. What we've done too is we've partnered with the largest publishers in the world. We're the first ever esports company that Nintendo partnered with. You can see some of the titles here these are our partners. We have some API integrations with these titles as well. And you can play any of these games on our platform. So that's a little bit about PlayVS. Today, we're going to be diving into some of the engineering side of that. With me here is Olivia Moss. She is the longest serving software engineer at the company. She's been here 4 years, coming up on 4 years. And Olivia, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an honor to be talking in front of or with you guys today. So thank you so much for having us. I am a front-end software engineer for PlayVS. I'm currently on the matches team. So when you're playing on a game or one of the days that you have one of your matches, you're in the match lobby, you're using match chat, you're seeing the team roster cards, you're doing everything there. Like those are sort of all of the components that I have touched throughout my career here at PlayVS. I don't have a stereotypical, I would say, engineering path in my career. I quit my job at 27 and decided to code. And so I learned enough JavaScript in order to get accepted into a boot camp, where it was a 3 months intensive boot camp in Venice. And then from there, I got hired at PlayVS. And so it's been definitely a different route for me. But I think the thing that I love most about engineering is the people that I'm around with every day, the people I get to work with, the type of caliber that they bring to the table, the conversations that we have, and then just building really cool stuff to provide really great opportunities for us and for you guys.
Awesome. And and myself, I'm Jonathan Boswell. I'm the director of engineering. I started in, how did I begin? I got into coding. So I grew up in a very poor family, and I had to work my whole way through college. So I was like, well, I learned to code to basically pay my way through college. So I was getting my degree in something completely different, but I was earning my money from engineering. And so after I graduated, I was like, well, wait a second. Maybe that's what I should be doing. That seems to be a better path. And I had kind of that entrepreneurial spirit. And out of college, I had heard the fact that 9 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 3 years. And so I was like, well, great. I'm going to go start 10 companies then, because then eventually one of them will work out. And so I just kind of threw myself into using engineering to build businesses. And that's kind of how I got into this. And what do I love about engineering? To me, it is, I think a lot of times people think of engineers as kind of the antisocial person who's like in a basement somewhere coding away. Could not be further from the truth. It is super collaborative. It is problem solving with really smart people and working together as a team to build incredible things. And so what I love is the the opportunity to solve really complex problems with really smart people and have a lot of fun doing it. But it doesn't always start that way. A lot of times there's a learning curve. So let's talk about this. Is the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is when you all have probably experienced this yourself as you were getting into programming, right? Maybe you're like, oh yeah, building websites, whatever, it's easy, it's no big deal. I don't need to like learn too much. And you get into it and you're like, oh, wait a second. I know this is true for me. I was like, yeah, no, this is easy. And I was like, oh no, wait, this is harder than I thought. Oh wait, this is really hard. This is really complex. And you get down here into this valley of despair here, where you see the guy looking at the books being like, is this idea of it can really seem overwhelming. I know, Olivia, you went through an intensive, and like, I'll say this about Olivia. So we've worked together for several years now, and I've worked with hundreds of engineers over the years and different people. And Olivia has one of the most tenacious engineers, where she has this grit where she can power through stuff. And so, Olivia, maybe you talk about some of the learning curves that you've had to go through.
Yeah, 100%. So, I sort of, when I started coding, I had all of the same stereotypical things that you hear. I'm not good at math, right? I don't really do anything with computers. Therefore, I'm not an engineer. I learned enough JavaScript to skyrocket my confidence to get me into Codesmith, right? And with Codesmith, it was 3 months. Every week was a different module. You had a test on that module, and then you moved forward. I did not pass a single module, not just like slightly. Oh, I got a 69, right? Something like that. I failed every single module. And it was extremely tough to keep going, because everything on paper was telling me that I'm not an engineer and I can't do this, right? But what I didn't realize is that this graph that we show you here is literally the biggest muscle that you can have in your career as an engineer that will make you be the most successful. It's not, being an engineer is not about just having the answers. I'm sure you guys have experienced this, right? It's not about just having the answers right out the gate. It's about having that grit and that persistence to keep going, to keep pushing forward when you have absolutely no idea. And if it means for an hour, you're throwing things at the wall and just hacking away to try to get something on the screen, then that's what it means. And you learn from that and you keep going. So yeah, like I said, the 3-month intensive program was super hard, and it really was building this muscle for me. Although I did not pass a single test, I was the first person to be hired out of my group within 3 days of graduating. So 100% can happen for everyone.
Yeah, and part of that is the grit and determination, and that attitude of like, Olivia just throws herself into learning stuff. And I've seen a huge growth in her career to the point where, she is, like I said, one of the longest serving engineers and is an amazing front end engineer at this point. And then also too, speaking of that, the continuation of that is, I got into it learning, trying to just pay my way through college and building businesses out of it, and have been able to, have successful exits out of companies I've started. I've had 3 different exits, and it's life changing. So this journey, this grit, this hardship, and mind you, it's not just like, oh, super easy. You have to throw yourself into it. There's long nights of working and solving problems and wanting to give up and pushing through that on the other side of that, there is a lot of success that can be had as an engineer, both from a really high salary standpoint to also being able to build businesses that you can sell. So there's a lot of upside there, and encourage you all to power through those tough moments as you're learning and becoming a better engineer. So enough about us and kind of PlaVS. What we want to dive into is a specific problem. Olivia's actually going to walk us through something that she has been working on solving. To give you all a little bit of context about the PlaVS platform, and it incorporates a lot of different things. So we have the match day experience here, and the roster management, and all sorts of API integrations, working with the publishers. We do a lot of data and intelligence as well there. There's a whole lot that goes into it. We're going to focus in today on, there was a big problem on our platform a couple of years ago, which is that coaches, maybe a kid was sick, or maybe there was a last minute change or something. Coaches would come to our platform, they'd scramble to like text another coach or email. There was all this confusion, or maybe a coach had missed an email, or the coach on our platform was out for the day and there was somebody else. There was no way for kids and coaches to all communicate within our platform. So we made the business decision to go ahead and invest in and build our own internal chat client. So basically within our application now, kids, coaches, they can all pull up a window and they can just start chatting and connect with each other, and also our staff as well. So Olivia is going to dive into a particular element around that with the match chat and global chat. Olivia?
Yeah, cool. So I'm sure if you guys have been on the platform, you have seen sort of the match lobby chat. And like JB said, right, there was this problem where coaches, players were trying to text each other on the side using Discord, wherever it was, to try to communicate about whatever they needed to communicate right before the match. So we built match lobby chat. That was the first version. So if you see this chat window, the big square where you can obviously play versus admin, that was the first version, and it was only on the lobby page, right? And so the problem that we wanted to solve was, well, what about on match days when coaches or players are in other tabs, right? They could be anywhere in the application doing whatever they need to do, and they don't know that they have an unread message or that they've been sent a message, right? So we decided so that was the problem that we needed to solve was, okay, right now, the only way that you're going to know if you have an unread message in chat is going to be on this lobby page. So we need to elevate that data up so that we can share it globally across the entire application. And then we need to make sure that this information is succinct. So if you look down at the left-hand corner, you're going to see the Eagle Crest Smash team. There's a notification there with a little 1 in it, right? So that shows you that you have an unread message. Then if you go up, like I said, the little red dot next to all, that's an unread notification. If you go up to the top right-hand corner next to that yellow arrow, you're going to see another red dot, which will be an unread message notification. And then let's say I have a chat expanded, or I'm sorry, I have a chat open, but it's not expanded. If you go all the way down, straight down to the screen, you're going to see Eagle Crest Smash Pro, and it's flashing. Well, you can't tell that it's flashing, but it would flash orange. And so those are all of the notifications that we need to keep in sync. And this is an example of once we do keep those unread notifications in sync, we want to be able to bold that message. So that yellow line is sort of drawing a connection between a message that you haven't read because it's bolded, and obviously the unread notification there. We can move forward, JB. Cool. So right here, this is a function. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with React. It's just a framework that we use on the front end. This logic holds. So if you look on the left-hand side at line 70, you're going to see the convo.on message added. So based on a conversation ID that I send to this function, it's going to attach a message added listener. Based on a message being sent in this conversation, it's going to then set state. So I'm going to take your eyes up to that blue rectangle, right, where we see use state. You can think of that as like a bank of data that I can then use across the application. So this message added is going to set state, and it's going to link the conversation to the unread message count. And then that way I can use that in different places. We can move forward, JB. Cool. So if you shoot up from that first red rectangle, you see use get unread message count, right? That was that function I just showed you. So you can see that I'm passing in a match ID for that chat unique name, okay? And then from there, I'm getting back an unread message count for both my all chat and my coach chat, okay? And then I'm going to do some math on that, right? I'm going to create a total. So if we take our eyes back down to that first red rectangle, should I render an unread notification, right? Means that my total unread message count based on me calling that function does not equal 0, right? Now, the thing I want to call out here, and we'll come back to this and talk about this in terms of an optimization. If you go to that second rectangle where I have a use effect, you're going to see an update global unread message function call where I'm using the spread operator to set a new unread message state, right? So this piece of logic that is very specific to that left-hand notification that I showed you in that image before is also setting state. So that, remember, in the top right-hand corner, that little red dot, that will know if it has any unread messages for any conversations. A little weird dependency there, right? That doesn't necessarily make sense. Let's keep moving. Cool. So this is just a call out. This is going to be that upper right-hand corner, that little red dot. That's this function. If you look at line 20, you see that I'm pulling unread messages by conversation, right? So that was that state that that component was setting in that use effect. Now I'm pulling it out here. Line 22, I'm mapping over all of my values, and then I'm seeing if any value is greater than 0 in order on line 42 to tell me to display the red dot, right? So that's how that's getting pulled. Let's move forward. Okay, so I just called that out, that was a weird dependency, right? You wouldn't necessarily think that my left-hand nav is the one controlling a global unread message state for the entire application, right? So what I want to show you is back before in that function where we had the message added listener on the one conversation. This is an idea of moving that listener to the client. So if you think about, here's my chat client here at the top. Then I have all these little conversations underneath it, right? And right now at that level, that's where our listeners are added. So in a sense, we're adding a listener for every single conversation. In reality, we could move that up a level to the client. Now we have one listener on the client that can tell us if any conversation has an unread message, right? And so I sort of free-handed this. That's why you're going to see those red squigglies. This is not yet implemented yet. But what it's basically showing you is it's doing the same thing that we were doing. We're listening for a message. Based on a message coming in, we're going to link the new message with the conversation that has it, and then set its new unread message count, right? And in so doing that, we set this global state that doesn't have any dependencies, right? It's not in weird places of the application. It's very readable. I have my one client. I then have a global state for all conversations. Now, if we were to go back to that left-hand nav, it could just pull from there. No need to set more data, right? The other function that had that message added listener on the combo, that gets wiped away entirely. Now we delete code, which is like super, it's always fun. It's always fun to delete a lot of code. We're repeating less. And yeah, so that's just a cool optimization that I actually will be implementing here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's great. I love this, Olivia. Thanks for sharing that. And to me, what's always fun is, we're talking about a red dot, a little red dot. And when you talk to designers or different people, like, oh yeah, just put a little red dot up there. Or, clients like, yeah, just put a little red dot. And you're like, okay, but how does that red dot work? And when is it actually going to show? And what's the state? And what's the proper way of elevating the state? And what are the efficient ways of doing that is a whole different conversation. And that's the fun of engineering, that we get to do this type of stuff on a daily basis. So thanks, Olivia, for sharing that. And wanted at this point to kind of open it up to you all, make ourselves available for any questions or conversations that you want to have about esports or engineering, a career in engineering, anything like that. Like, what are you all looking to take from your high school education here of computer science, and how do you want to apply that? And what are ways that, or questions that you might have about doing that professionally?
Go ahead, Marcello.
Okay, I'm Marcello Alanis. What did you do specifically to pay your way through college with code?
I'm so sorry. I could not hear that. I think the mic is.
Go ahead and get closer, yeah.
What did you do to pay your way through college with code?
Oh, JB.
Oh yeah. So what did I do? Yeah, it's a great question. So I actually started as graphic design. So like I love visual arts. And so I was actually in a media program. So the engineering school, they needed somebody to help with the PowerPoint presentations and like graphics for the school. And so I started there. And basically there were a couple engineers that quit, and they had a shortage of people. And so they said, here's a book. Do you want it? Like, you're good at graphics. We need help building websites and stuff. Do you want to learn to code? I was like, sure. And it was like, I opened it up and I fell in love with it. So initially it started with websites. I started by building websites, and that's what I was paid to do. And then I got deeper into it and started actually building applications, database driven applications, because I couldn't read enough or research enough. I just threw myself into that. So I worked basically at the College of Engineering at the college. And so when I had first gotten to campus, I was like, I need to find a job as quick as possible. And that leveraged into, I just kind of took those moments, take those opportunities. And I'll say that's been true for my whole career, is in the key moments along the way. It's like, be somebody who's willing to say, yes, like, I don't know, but I want to step up and I want to learn, and I'll put myself into it. So that's how I did it.
You just threw yourself into it for like development?
Absolutely. So it's one of those things where I'm the type of person who, it's like, say yes. It's better to say yes. And I'm transparent with people, where I'm like, hey, I don't know how to solve this problem, but I'm really excited and I want to try and solve it. And if you'll give me the chance to do that, then let me go ahead and give it a shot. And people respond well to that. I think people really like that concept. So the first time, if I'm going even further back, I started like on my own, just kind of coding, just as a hobby. It started out as a hobby for me. And then it eventually became a profession. But yeah, I think the idea of, even if you're maybe shy or timid or kind of afraid to do something, is like, be transparent. Tell people, hey, I don't know this, but I'll try my best and I will give it my all. And if you give me a chance, like, that would mean a lot to me. There's many, many times in my life and my careers that I've articulated that, and people really respond well to that.
Who's next?
Sure, no problem. What sorts of projects are you all working on right now?
Sure. Yeah. Come on.
So I know that you said that you like failed all your tests, but
Oh,
what did you like take from that, or how were you able to still like know how to code if you failed everything?
Good question.
yeah, 100%. So I mean,
Okay.
I failed, like, when you are actually building, right? There's so many resources to you. So when I was taking the test, there was a little bit of a memorization component there, that because I didn't understand the fundamentals at that moment, I couldn't then memorize some building blocks, you could say. So but that doesn't mean that I wasn't picking up on information, right? Like, I just needed more time to learn more of the foundation, maybe have those resources available to me, look at past patterns that I've done. How can those patterns relate to what I need to do today, right? Or build upon that in whatever manner. So for me, it was, yeah, I did fail every test. But that didn't mean that I wasn't picking up on information. And so it was just day by day, moment by moment. And I kept going. And it really is, in the beginning, such a muscle to build. Because you have to learn the language, you have to learn the framework, you have to learn the syntax. And then once that becomes sort of second nature to you, the broader problems are easier to solve.
Yeah. And Olivia, speaking of the hiring, because she was actually hired, our CTO and the director before me were the ones that hired her. The thing that stood out to them is, she was really honest and upfront about where she was at. And two is that she was like, I'll like that grit and that determination of like, I'm going to be successful, and like, I'm going to study, I'm going to do those things, speaking in those kind of the way I was just sharing of like, hey, I don't necessarily fully know this, but I'm going to give it my all. That translates. And she really impressed them in that way. And she came in, and I remember starting to speaking personally. So like, when I joined the company, So I had exited out of my last company, and I met with our CTO. He's an amazing person. I love him to death. And I was the CTO of my last company, and he's like, you know, we have a CTO. I was like, I don't care. I'll sweep the floor here because I just love esports. I love video games. That was like my first big startup that I did was around video games. I just wanted to kind of go back to it. He's like, well, we need an engineer, and I was like, awesome, sign me up. Like, I'm in. And he's like, I love that. So I came in and was working, and Olivia was very new. She was very like, okay. And what impressed me about her is just the willingness to ask the question, the willingness to be upfront. Hey, I don't know this. You know, what do I need to go research? What do I need to go look at? Or can you explain why you did something this way? And like not being afraid to ask those questions led to her just compounding that knowledge and getting better and better and better. Whereas maybe other people who are like embarrassed to say that, or like who are like kind of don't want to be seen as like not knowing, you can see that they hit a plateau in their careers because it's like nobody really they don't get the help that they need, and they don't grow in knowledge. And so I would strongly encourage all of you to throw yourself in that and like ask the questions, and don't be afraid to like be wrong or to listen to other people, or like to ask like, hey, what am I missing here, or how did you solve that, like, or what are better ways that, like, can you look at my code and like what's a better way of doing this? Those are all really powerful questions to be asking as you're building stuff. So what are you all building right now? What are there projects that you all are working on individually or in class?
You guys can share whatever. Yeah.
I just got done with the APCSA test yesterday.
Nice.
I think I did pretty well in my FRQs, and then my multiple choice, I felt like I did pretty good. I only like missed like 5. Like,
hey, awesome.
5 for time management.
Yeah, had to guess on 5.
What's your favorite language to write in?
We did Python a few years back. I don't quite remember how to use it. If I go back into it, I probably wouldn't know how to do it. I know C+. Wait, well, hold on. No, sorry, C#. I was learning Java here.
Sure. Great. Yeah, those are all good languages. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, like, you know, be a polyglot, code in all sorts of different languages. There's lots of value, you know, in that. Cool. Well, good job on the test there. So, and also too, as you all think of your stuff, are you thinking of, so there's kind of different paths that I'm just sharing this for you all to maybe be aware of. Is like, there's different paths. If you're loving algorithm, speed efficiencies, if you love building performance systems and code that's highly performant, and you really like the logic and puzzle solving of code, backend engineer is a great career path. If those of you that are like, for me, I came in through the front end route, where it's like, I love visuals. I love the idea of moving pixels around and building things and visualizations and being able to code stuff that turns into a video game and things like that. You know, front end development or video game development is a great career path there too. It is tricky because you do, as time goes on, you kind of got to pick which one which direction you want to go. There's not just like a monolithic computer engineer and that one person does something. It's really cool as you're with your classmates and different people to even build relationships with people who are strong in different areas, you know?
I think I might try front end because I'm going to school in Massachusetts for data science. It was going to be
right on
at first, but I didn't have it, so I did data science. But I do like doing statistics. And there's a positive of the business side, and then I can do computer science.
That's very smart. Yeah. And data science is really powerful, and Python is widely used for that. So yeah, getting that good, strong Python background is going to be really useful for you going into data science.
I've had experience with, I've done a little HTML. I did, there's probably like during COVID, I went through a tutorial, I think it was Travis T Media or something. I just did their full like course on HTML websites, and then I had one build. I don't think I did the CSS at all or JavaScript. And then I had courses I was taking to do the Android HTML. I forgot XML. I did a little bit of that, and then I was able to make a usable button with Android Studio to the
Hey,
tutorial.
there you go, man. That's where it starts. It all starts
I
with the
just
first
haven't
button,
had
you know?
the time to fully go through it all that yet. I don't have a designated to do all the work, and I like
Yeah.
to organize space. I just don't
Yeah, I
have.
always tell people that, you know, I've taught, so in addition to kind of like just running business and stuff, I've taught different computer science classes over the years. And I always describe HTML as like your bones, you know, and then the CSS is the skin and the flesh and the outfit, you know, it basically adds all the color and the vibrancy and life. And then but at that point, if it's like it still doesn't move, you know, JavaScript is now the motion and the events and the things that you can do. So HTML gives you the button, CSS makes the button beautiful, and JavaScript makes the button do something. You know, it's kind of a helpful way of thinking about front end development. And then from there, you all get to move into like frameworks and stuff like Vue and React, you know, all sorts of tools and components. Cool.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just swing this around to my face. And one of the things that you were talking about, the collaborative nature of coding and just like, it's not just a solo effort. So that's one of the things that I share with my class a lot. But one of the things I also share is just like being mentally healthy and having a healthy work-life balance. And myself being a teacher and esports coach, I'm not like the best example of that. But can you kind of share like, how do you guys handle that? Like, what are your personal hobbies? Like, how do you feel like coding helps you be like the person that you are?
It's a great question. And Olivia, I think Olivia is a health guru. So
Yeah, I am. No, yeah, huge advocate for mental health. You know, I'm at a startup, right? And it's definitely matured over the years, but there have been times that it's been a huge push, and it has involved late hours, weekends at times. And those compounding on each other definitely can, you know, burn you out essentially. And so for me, you know, one thing that I do love about the career of being a software engineer is there's a lot of autonomy in it, right? Now, I do have to be available during certain hours, but as long as I'm getting my deadlines done and I'm able to communicate with people, there's definitely pockets that I can pull out. Maybe it's a, you know, a 15-minute walk that I need to do. I need to set the computer down. I need to step away from it. I need to move my body. Let me go outside, get some sunshine, do a quick walk, right? I also think too, I mean, PlayVS is great about this. But I also think in the tech world, you know, mental health is a big deal. And so oftentimes companies have great benefits that if you do need a mental health day, you can take it, and stuff like that. But I think it's, you know, what you have to understand is that just coding, if I coded for 12 hours straight, I bet you anything that I was not more productive or efficient than if I coded for 4 hours straight. And so I think it's really,
totally agree.
Yeah. So it's really understanding I'm a morning person, you know, come like 8:39 to 1, boom, huge chunk. I'm knocking out everything. And then I save some of maybe the breakdown of my tickets, right? Some of the not the active coding, but the thinking about the problem, tying up loose ends if I need more designs, or I need to talk to my product manager, or I need to collaborate with back end, front end, you know, that then comes down maybe towards the end of the day. And then, like I said, I have that walk in the middle of the day. I also teach Pilates on the side. That's a big, I grew up dancing. I've always been in the dance world. So, Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning, I'm teaching Pilates, and then I'm getting on my computer, and it works for me.
Yeah, I think that's all great insights there. And what I would add to that is very true. One of the things that I find myself very often, so I call it like the 5 minute, the 15 minute, and the hour. So if I'm like, you know, I have an idea, I will give myself 5 minutes to explore that idea. Like I'll search some stuff, I'll look it up real quick. I'm like, and I'll kind of like give myself 5 minutes to do it. And then I'll give myself a 15 minutes to try it out. I'll be like, you know what? There's this refactor that I think I should do. Let me go 5 minutes, look into it. You know what? I think I'm going to do that. I'll give myself the 15 minutes. If after 15 minutes, I'm like, no, that's wrong, then I'll unwind from it. But let's say it's starting to work and I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. And I give myself the hour to finish out the hour. At the end of that hour, if I haven't solved the problem, because I've tried to explore something and I'm working on it and I'm trying to solve it, then what I do is I do the step away. And it's like a lot of times I've found that let's say at the end of the hour, I'm like, no, I know I'm right. And I'm just trying to code and I'm like deleting code and I'm trying it again and again. I get into a bad headspace and like 3 hours will go by and I'm like angry, I'm agitated, I'm annoyed. I'm like, all this, it doesn't go well. And so I've learned, and I would encourage each of you, because you're going to solve problems, lots of problems. Your whole career in engineering will be solving problems. That as you know, if you're trying something, give yourself the freedom. And I do this for me. I go and I get water. It's like I create a mental note of like, I'm going to get a glass of water. It's an easy thing to do. Like, I'm going to stand up from my keyboard and I'm going to go and get a glass of water. And I have found so many times that taking that break and I'm drinking the glass of water and I'm thinking, and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, and I try something completely different and it works. You know, it's like giving yourself that mental space to be able to back away is so important. And really give yourself the freedom to step away from the code, because code, you know, we all get into the code hole and like, you know, everyone gets in and you're just like, you're in it, you love it, you're going, you're vibing, it's awesome. But then sometimes when that turns negative, just be aware of that. So like if you're in the code hole and you're having fun and you're like building tons of cool stuff, awesome. But if it starts to not work, or you start to get agitated, or you're starting to feel it here, or you're starting to get like, step away from the code, clear your head, take a walk, get a glass of water, come back to it. You're going to be better off. It's really important in your careers. Robbie, I hope that answered. And just as a whole life too, is just like mental health and just in the wholeness of this is, in the challenges, find your peers and find your friends is what I would say. So it's like, lean into that's where the collaboration really matters, is like also, I've learned to surround myself too in social settings. So like my wife, she's helped me with some code, you know, like she's a therapist, but it's like, I'll be talking about something and it's like, just sometimes explaining it to her, and find people who don't mind that is what I would say. My marriage probably wouldn't work if I was with somebody who was like annoyed by me talking about nerdy stuff from time to time. Like, you know, so find people too in your life that are like supportive of the things that you're trying to do. I think is important too, you know.
Yeah, there's this like idea, this thing like in the tech world, I don't know if you guys would do it, where you have a rubber duck on your desk, right? And you can't figure something out. You're talking to your rubber duck, you're talking it out. Now, I don't have a rubber duck. I have an amazing team. Yeah, and there's yeah, good, exactly.
Yeah, there
right?
we go.
Like, you know, sometimes teammate and I will just jump on a call. And I think I'm going to ask her a question, right? I think that I'm going to need her input. In reality, I just needed to say the problem out loud. And then I go, oh, and a lot of times, yeah, she'll be like, no, I'm happy to be a rubber duck, man. You know, and then we go our separate ways. So it's always good.
Oh, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you organize like stuff you need to get done that day?
Great question. Livy, you wanna?
Yeah. So, you know, this is going to vary from company to company, sort of what the process is. We have sort of a story task process where, you know, the features that we need to build are broken out into stories. You then make tasks, right, of how you're going to schedule out building that feature. And then those tasks get prioritized. And then there's a little bit of collaboration going back and forth with whether or not maybe you're blocked on designs, maybe you can't move forward because there's a backend component and I'm front end, so I have to wait for my backend. So there's a lot of communication in terms of upper management, right? My EM, my team members, in order to understand what exactly can I move forward on today. And then from there, it's just that, what is highest priority and what can I move forward today? And we also use an estimation system. And so we estimate as a team how long certain tasks will take us, which is a really good anchor to then make sure that I'm staying in line with how fast I should be moving, right?
Yeah, I think that's and that's great in a larger organization process. So she did a great job of describing how we operate at PlayVS. Your question might be too, though, like you're doing a project on your own, or maybe one or two other people. Like, how do you start to pick what to work on first? I always lean into the biggest stuff, biggest problems first. So the scarier, so well, let me say this. I go to two extremes. I either say, hey, what's the scariest thing that I don't want to work on, or that like is like the most challenging problem? I want to like just get my head around that, and I throw myself into that piece. But sometimes if you're there too long, you might be like, you know what? I just need to go like code a quick text change, or like code something really easy just to get the momentum going. So I would say I kind of go between those things. Is what is the most impactful and important piece of your project? Focus there. If you're not making headway, step away from it and maybe knock off a few small tasks and get those done. Is kind of professionally how I work. I don't know if that answers the question. How do you do it? How do you organize your stuff?
How do we organize our stuff?
Sure.
We just recently did a game with Unity.
Great.
We couldn't really collaborate with how Unity works for the code, so I was mainly doing most of it. Carlos, we did have some problems because my friend Carlos was helping with some. He was basically doing front end. He was putting the island in and then working with the colliders. And
it's great.
When we compiled it together, we had a lot of errors. So,
as everyone does, man. I mean, that's part of it,
Yeah.
That's and oh, sorry. Go ahead, Olivia.
No. I was just gonna say there's always a floating task of hooking it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The back end's doing something, the front end's doing something, or you're both on front end and you're doing something. You get everything done, but then there's always that floating task of like, okay, when we bring this together, is there going to be something that we need to work out, right?
Always. Yeah. And the best people to work with. So, and hopefully you all will do this with each other, is like, hopefully, yeah, it had a bunch of errors, and hopefully you two didn't then start arguing about whose fault, whose errors were, like, right? That doesn't work. Like that is, don't do that, please.
Yeah.
Like, that's like professionally, nobody does that. When that happens, we're like, oh, great, cool. And you almost think of it as like, the person who's able to solve the stuff the quickest and not have it be a big deal is like the type of people that everyone wants to work with. The person's like, oh yeah, oh no, oh there's like 20 compile errors. Like, okay, well, hey, let's just blow through them real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, cool. Hey, can you grab that one? I'll grab this one, and just like delegate and collaborate. Those are engineers that go really far, and that lots of people want to work with, because like we're very big on, like, everyone makes mistakes. I don't care who you are. Like, you can be the most talented engineer on earth. You're still going to have bugs. You're still going to have things that come up from time to time, or blind spots in algorithms and things like that. And it's not about being a hero. It's about being somebody who is like humble and works well with other people. That goes so far. Of like, oh my goodness, look at that thing that I did. And so even if I find somebody else's bug or find something else with somebody else, I don't like come and be like, shame on you, you got a bug. It's like, dude, hey, let me help this person do this bug. Hey, I noticed this bug. Here's the code. I think that works, but maybe you take a look at it. Maybe you have a better idea around that too. That kind of attitude just builds teams, and like Olivia is saying, is so true. We always account for, you got front end, you got back end. I don't care how good both sides are. There's going to be time and effort and energy in just marrying those things together. So hopefully you all successfully did that and had some success.
Yeah.
Because Unity is fun. Unity is great.
Yeah.
Cool. And Mr. Hernandez, how are we on time right now?
I have them for another 50 minutes. So.
Oh, okay.
It's how are y'all are at time.
Okay. I think we have about 5 more minutes here or so.
I got a hard question. How do you estimate how much time something's going to take, especially like in, I guess, your pre-work phase?
Yeah, that's a good question. Estimation, being able to estimate correctly is a skill in and of itself. Is
Yes.
definitely a skill in and of itself. Oh man, we use a complexity system, not timing. And that's an important distinction.
Yes, very.
Because oftentimes, you know, when you look at a task, you're like, oh, I think that's going to take me 1 day, 2 days, right? But really what we're estimating is complexity. And so you ask, okay, well, how do you do that? Well, over time, right? And as you gain experience building different features, you start to sort of understand, especially when you're in a code base, right? Like I've been in this code base now for almost 4 years, and there are patterns, and there's a lot of repetitiveness in that. And so because I understand the patterns and I understand the complexity that went into those, when we take another feature and it's usually something, maybe it's brand new, like Match Lobby Chat was brand new, but a lot of times it's building on top of features that we already have. And so given my past experience with the other complexity of certain tasks, then I start to bring that forward to be able to accurately estimate the complexity. I got to tell you though, oftentimes, we're off, and that's something that as a team, we want to get better at, because then it changes the deadlines and stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the reasons we use complexity is because it depends on who's working on it, right? So there's leveling of engineers. So different engineers have different skills. And so what we say, Olivia is super familiar with the code base and she understands the complexities of things. So that might, it's her time, even though something is very complex, she might actually be able to do it very quickly. Whereas let's say somebody who joined the company a couple months ago and is a great engineer, but they're not familiar with the complex, they don't understand the ins and outs of the entire system. So for them to crack open that code and to work on it, it might actually take them 3 or 4 days because it's highly complex. And so time estimation, if we just said, well, it's a 1-day task, well, it might be 1 day for Olivia, but it might be 2 or 3 days for this other individual. So we don't look at time because it doesn't really tell you a lot about it. You look at the complexity of the problem and where it sits in the code base and how many parts of the code that it touches. And then we use a point system, and it's a Fibonacci. So basically we use 1, 3, 5, 8. So 1 in our system is like a text change. Like somebody's like, hey, go switch out some text, or go like change an image, or like the link is wrong. It needs to go to a different address. A 3 would be like, hey, there's a new component, a React component that builds off some other ones, but we basically needed to go in and reposition some things, maybe add in some new data from the back end and interact with it. But it's very straightforward. It's not super complex. It's like, it's a React component that's going to, have some pull for some new data. That would be a 3. A 5 in our system would be, it touches front end and back end. So maybe we need to update the data model. And then we need to also build the component maybe it's from scratch. It's one that we haven't done before. That would fall into kind of the 5. And we don't usually typically task stuff above an 8, but an 8 would be something that's like, it doesn't exist today. We need to build the data model. We have to add it to add the graph for the back end. And then we have to build the services. And then we need to implement that in the front end. Would be like an 8 in our system. So that's how we categorize and rank stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
So I think we can cut it right there.
Great.
Thank you so much we could just ask y'all questions all day, but thank you so much for taking some time to, share about your experiences, your educational journey, and really just showing your snippets of code just to get a red dot up on the screen, like
right?
hundreds of lines of code. And as seniors, they focus so much on just creating stuff, from scratch. And I think they've learned about like complexity of systems, how much time it takes or how to estimate how long it takes. So, they're asking things based off of their experiences because they want to improve.
That's so great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for having us. It's been fantastic. And also too, calling out that we are hoping to do something like this again in the future for all the super coaches. And Neil, our CTO too, he's supportive. He's going to be joining that one. That we're probably going to do that in the fall. So keep your eyes out for that and open for that. And we'd love to see you again.
All right. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. All right. See y'all. And hey, good luck everyone on your engineering careers.
Absolutely.
See ya.